On your Wednesday episode of Locked On Raptors, what's Collin Murray-Boyles' ceiling, and why should you not be interested in Anthony Davis or Trae Young? All that and more in a mailbag edition of the show coming up. Thanks for hanging.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Wednesday, January the 7th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join. Great place. Come hang out, talk ball among friends. We'd love to see you there and become part of our listener community. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we are off and running here on a Wednesday edition of the show. We're going to do a mailbag, and we also have a fun little thing at the end of the show talking with Abby and Justina, the Wayne Embry Fellows this year with the Toronto Raptors. If you're not sure what the Wayne and Theresa Embry Fellowship is, you'll find out at the end of the show. And if you want to apply for this year's round of applications, you can go and do that at the link in the description of the podcast. We'll get into the details of that a little bit later on in the show. But we got mailbag questions from you, the freaks, to kick things off. And we'll start with the guy who I've been thinking about and buzzing about ever since the game against the Hawks on Monday, where he was just absolutely awesome. It's Collin Murray-Boyles. The question from Loquacious Drew in the Locked On Raptors Discord is, what is Collin Murray-Boyles' ceiling? An interesting question. Something that Darko Rajakovic actually kind of talked about a little bit after the game on Monday, and didn't really give an answer for that. It was more just like, hey, we're still figuring out what this guy's good at, what he's going to be, what type of player he's going to be, what role he's going to occupy. And I think, I'm not sitting here with a clear picture just yet of what Collin Murray-Boyles can or will be 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now. I will say, I think the floor for him is incredibly high because of all the things he does extremely well already. The defensive stuff, the offensive touch around the rim, the passing chops, all of it. He just is a really sound, tidy NBA player already as a 20-year-old rookie. And I think there's like a lot of interesting stuff for him to potentially grow into as a guy who can do stuff with the ball in his hands. Do I think he's necessarily going to be like a slashing wing type or anything like that? Maybe not. Maybe that's not where his future lies. But I do think as just like a really fun, additive, versatile player who can give a team a bunch of different looks, whether it's playing small or whether it's playing jumbo, whatever it might be, switch defense, drop defense, hedge defense, whatever you're asking for your big man to do, I think he's going to be able to do it. And I just think he's going to be the type of guy that all sorts of winning teams are going to covet in the future as versatility, size, and just sort of ball skill from every position becomes a priority ever more throughout the league, year over year, right? Like this is a continuing trend in the NBA. You can't just be a guy who does one thing well. You got to do a lot of things well. You got to be able to do stuff with the ball. You got to have scoring chops. You got to have passing ability. And all that stuff is very much there in sort of its infancy with Collin Murray-Boyles. I've said this before on the show, and it's sacrilege to say this because it's the thing that people have been doing with NBA draft prognostication for the last decade plus, trying to find the next version of this guy. But it's hard not to see Draymond Green comparisons when you watch Collin Murray-Boyles play. And again, it's really stupid to make the Draymond comparison for anybody, because it's just like an impossible thing. This guy comes in and is just like a transcendent all-time great defender, someone who makes small ball lineups viable in a way no small guy has ever done before, a wonderful passer, just like an orchestrator of really good offensive play. Like Draymond is a one-of-one player. And so to say Collin Murray-Boyles is just the new Draymond is wrong. But I do think if you're looking over the last decade plus of players coming into the league who have been in that sort of vein of player, Collin Murray-Boyles might be the single closest thing to Draymond Green that we've seen. And there will be stuff that he adds to his game. He might be a better offensive player than Draymond Green. He'll probably be a worse defensive player than Draymond Green because Draymond Green's like a top 5 defender of all time by a lot of metrics. He's unbelievable. I'm not saying Collin Murray-Boyles is going to get there, but like Draymond Green was the second, third best player on multiple championship teams. I think Collin Murray-Boyles has enough in his tool bag as far as skills, as far as things he can work on and flesh out a little bit more, that he can be one of the better players on a contender at some point in his career. Is that being a flaky person and not putting a defined ceiling on him? Maybe, but I don't think it's a smart thing to go and get too specific with ceilings in year one of a guy's career. But it's hard not to see all kinds of fanciful visions of him being like an all defense level guy, maybe someone who contends for defensive player of the years if he's a heavy minute starter sometime down the line, playing with Scottie Barnes in that front court. I mean, the possibilities with those two dudes defending at the 4-5 or the 3-4 is pretty incredible as well. And yeah, I'm excited to see how they kind of unleash him as a guy with the ball in his hands a little bit more often too. He's, got some good driving craft. He's got a solid handle for a guy his size. We know the passing vision is there. There's a lot to like here with Collin Murray-Boyles. And so, yeah, ceiling wise, like one of the better players on a championship level team, I think is totally there. Does he get there? We'll see. He's 20. He's a rookie. It's impossible to say, but so far so good on the Collin Murray-Boyles front. And it looks like an absolute home run of a pick for the Raptors early on. Another Collin Murray-Boyles related question from ESP325 asking, assuming Collin Murray-Boyles and Scottie are the future in some form or another, what skill sets would you want to see around them? And does anyone on the team project to fit that? Look, I think having those two guys as like a long-term baseline for your defense gives you a lot of optionality, right? I think, Collin Murray-Boyles clearly can play center. He's someone who can hang at that position. Does he hang against everybody? We'll see. There are certainly going to be some matchups where it's difficult for him just because of size, but with the arms he has, the hands he has, the strength he has, I think he's going to be able to bang with like 95% of opposing big men throughout the league. Not worried about that. Dude is thick as hell, dude is strong as hell, and seems to only get stronger by the day on account of he lifts. I think with Scottie, obviously, we've seen a little bit over the last few years what the ideal skill sets are around him, having some extra shot creation around him to not place the burden entirely on him. Really important, having some guard play so we can kind of run two-man actions with a differently sized player to avoid switches or to create mismatches and things like that. If teams do switch, I think is a really interesting skill set to have. I mean, theoretically, and I think this has worked well. I think Immanuel Quickley and Scottie Barnes do fit well together. Quickley's maybe not played to the level that you'd hope, and he's not kind of reaching the heights that you'd thought he'd reach as a complement to Scottie Barnes. But those two guys win their minutes together on the floor pretty comfortably most of the time, and I think the skill sets do mesh. Having someone maybe just like slightly better than Quickley in that role, I think would be, a really effective thing to pair with Scottie Barnes as well. You could always go the route of just going huge, right? If you can find yourself a true spacing center to pair with those two guys, that might go a long way towards being just like an unbelievably potent defensive team that also has the spacing and everything to get over the fact that maybe Barnes and Murray-Boyles together aren't your traditional spacers who are going to give you all kinds of room to operate on the floor. I think both guys overcome that a little bit by being damn smart passers, great interior passers, guys who, I think Scottie's someone who draws double teams right now. Collin Murray-Boyles, I think we'll see at some point, but if he's as good a rim finisher as he seems to be, he'll be a guy at some point who draws extra attention as well. That's a manufacturing of space too. When you're drawing people to the ball, there's space elsewhere to occupy or to take advantage of, even if it's not the traditional 5-out spacing that a lot of teams like to employ these days. And so, yeah, if you can have like a spacing big man, a true rim protector, shot blocker type, hard to find those guys. There's like maybe 11 of them in the entire world who you'd classify as like true rim protector, shot blocker types. 11 might be high. I'm just throwing out a number. It could be 7. It could be 5. It's a hard type of player to find. But if you could find one of those, I mean, those guys fit with everybody, but in particular, I think they'd fit damn well with Murray-Boyles and Barnes. And you could probably even get away with, sometimes these sort of rim protector, shot blocker, 3-point shooter type bigs are maybe not the greatest on the glass for, reasons. They're further away from the basket. They're not crashing the offensive glass. Maybe they're a little more spindly and they're not the greatest, strongest, buffest defensive rebounders. But I think with the way Murray-Boyles and Barnes both rebound above their heads size-wise, I think you can maybe get away with like a Miles Turner type archetype, for example. Not the greatest rebounder in the world, but gives that space on offense, the shot blocking as the backstop to allow Barnes and Murray-Boyles to cause all kinds of havoc on the perimeter, in passing lanes, in help, all of that stuff. And so, like, it's pretty basic stuff. Good lead guard and really good shot blocker, 3-point shooting big men. Like, yeah, those guys fit with everybody, and I think that would very much be the case with Barnes and Murray-Boyles as a duo as well. I think Brandon Ingram's a great fit with those guys, by the way. Like, having him create a little bit of of offense, the self creation stuff, the 3-point shooting he's brought to the table, the eager 3-point shooting. That's a very nice fit as well. And I think it's no secret or no surprise that the Ingram, Murray-Boyles, Barnes trio has absolutely wiped teams off the floor so far this season. They're plus 12 per 100 possessions in their time together. It's pretty incredible stuff. And that I think that you can kind of build on that even further as well going forward. They have guys. I think RJ Barrett fits those guys pretty nicely right now as like an off-ball cutter finisher who can take advantage of the passing chops they have. And I also think you'll be able to get away with like lesser defenders on the point of attack too. If you've got those two guys, if you can throw Collin Murray-Boyles, maybe he grows into something resembling a 1-5 defender someday, where you can throw him on opposing guards and he can be a real sort of point of resistance for you. Scottie Barnes, we know he's not the greatest guarding small guards, but he's had times where he's done it pretty well in the past. They haven't had to do it with him much this year, but I think he's shown a capacity. He's gotten a lot better at that than he was, say, as a rookie or a second-year player. And so I think because those guys are so good, because they cover so much ground, I think you'll probably be able to get away with lesser defenders around them, which is a nice thing, right? If you need to just like go all in on offense with a guard, maybe you're able to get away with that more because those two dudes are on the team than if you had another couple of guys on the wing you were kind of building around. So yeah, exciting stuff. Murray-Boyles, Barnes for the next however many years. Going to be a lot of fun to watch those two dudes figure it out together. And early stages suggest, boy, oh boy, are they already figuring it out. And it's pretty exciting stuff. We'll come back on the other side and into some trade-related stuff regarding the Toronto Raptors. There's been plenty of scuttlebutt and slop out there. Shout out to our friends at Ball, the Slop Kings, Trae Young, Anthony Davis. I think the Raptors should be staying far away from both of those guys. We'll get into why that is coming up as we continue the mailbag on today's show. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The wildcard round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. What does that mean? Well, each game day, you'll open a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. You can open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. When you make your picks, then apply the profit boosts to go for even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. Maybe your team is in the playoffs. You want to do the happiness hedge, bet against them with these profit boosts. So if your team does lose, you get some money out of the deal on the other side of things, and maybe even more money if you use these boosts. What a wonderful thing. So visit FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Go check it out. Before we dig into a couple more mailbag questions here, just a reminder, the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club is open for you to sign on up. $5 a month, $50 for the year gets you ad-free episodes of the show every day. You also get access to a Locked On Discord featuring people who listen to Locked On shows across the world. Pretty cool. Don't worry, the Locked On Raptors Discord is staying as is and staying free, but you get into this Discord if you pay for the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club. Some other bonus perks content-wise as well. If you sign it up, go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Link in the description of the podcast as well if you want to sign on up. You can also go to lockedonraptors.supercast.com to find the landing page. And thanks for supporting the show. It helps me big time when you do it. All right, let's get to a couple more mailbag questions here before we get to Abby and Justina from the Wayne Embry Fellowship. But let's dive in here. D. Coles5 asks, Sean, give fans reasons to not be excited about Anthony Davis and Trae Young trades. I'm in my element here, baby. This is where I butter my bread. Pouring water on trades for guys who are diminished assets. Look, I think the Trae Young thing is pretty obvious. He is someone who, per the reporting from Mark Stein this week, is going to require the Hawks to attach draft capital to move off of. That is not a guy I'm like eager to add to my mix. If the team that is the most invested in Trae Young, has had Trae Young for all these years, knows him better than anybody, is sitting there going, you know what? We'd actually prefer to just like pay to get off of this guy a year and a half before his deal is up, as opposed to keeping him on our basketball team. Kind of a giant red flag to me. We've seen it when Trae Young is on the floor. The Atlanta Hawks cannot defend. Look, they can't defend without him either, apparently, as we've seen the last couple of games out. But it's just like, it's very, very hard to build a capable defense with Trae Young on the floor. I also think his offensive upside has been maybe overstated over the years. Like, yeah, great passer, visionary passer, but the shooting, the shot selection has never really been what it was billed to be. He's a 30% three-point shooter this year. He's been kind of low 30s for a large part of his career. The idea of him, the sort of peak version of Trae Young, is like, okay, he's taking logo threes and he's banging them at 36, 37, 40%. And he's just this incredible engine for an offense, a force of gravity that makes everything easier for everybody else. It's been kind of empty calories for Trae Young throughout most of his career when it comes to the offensive engine stuff. And I think defensively, like, yes, to the point I made earlier, you know, when you have Scottie Barnes and Collin Murray-Boyles, maybe those two guys, plus all the other defensive pieces you have on hand, can fill in and make a team with Trae Young competent enough on defense. Maybe. I think you'd still be expecting a pretty serious drop-off offensively or defensively if you added Trae Young to the mix. And I'm not sure there's a lot of recent precedent to suggest that Trae Young makes you an instant top 5 offense or anything like that to balance it out. And so I'm just staying away. Also, there's the fact that he makes $46 million this year. And so to get him, you'd have to likely include RJ Barrett in a trade. And I'm just not doing that for Trae Young. I think RJ Barrett's a more valuable player right now than Trae Young. And I'm holding out for a better fitting, more proven, less baggagey guy than Trae Young if I'm the Raptors. And not to mention, like, you're going to get into the situation where you maybe feel compelled to pay him if you trade for him, right? Whether it's he opts out of his deal for next year and you give him a new extension for a healthy amount, or he plays out his contract and is a free agent going into the summer next year. Like, I think it's nice to think, oh, well, like, hey, if he just walks, that's fine. But if you have him and you don't love the experience and you do let him walk, the problem is you can't just like go and replace that salary slot with someone else, because you've got other guys you're paying money to, and you're not just going to have $48 million in cap space next summer. If he walks, you'll still be working with a limited amount of room to go and add a guard to replace Trae Young. And free agency, we know, is just not the place to go and do that either. And so very easy for me to just turn my nose up at a Trae Young trade, full stop. And I'm glad to see that in the reporting, the Raptors have not really been tied to him. That is not the case with Anthony Davis. We've heard it from Jake Fisher and Mark Stein. We heard it from Sam Amick today in The Athletic, that the Raptors and Hawks are kind of the two teams that Anthony Davis is like, okay, getting traded to, that, you know, the Raptors have expressed interest. We know this. We've talked about this on the show. I just don't see it for the Raptors in this case either. And for a few reasons, right? Like, I understand it on the buy low end of things, right? Like, this is what the Raptors did with Brandon Ingram. It was, okay, it costs us like basically nothing to get Brandon Ingram in the door. Let's just do it. And we have added a talented player for very little outgoing cost. That's nice, but I don't think you're going to get that similar level of buy low deal with Anthony Davis. The reporting from Sam Amick is that like substantial draft capital would have to be going back to the Mavericks for the Mavericks to move Davis. And I just don't think there's going to be a happy medium right now based on what you're reading in the tea leaves between the Mavericks and whichever team is going to trade for Anthony Davis. Maybe the Hawks are more inclined because they're bad and desperate and have some other salaries they can move, whether it's Porzingis or whomever. They have some extra interesting picks they could throw around. Not that they'd be throwing around the Pelicans pick they have this year for Anthony Davis, because that would be very stupid. But, they have a little bit more in terms of like extra picks on hand that they could maybe throw around for an AD trade. I just like with the Raptors, you're looking at it's going to cost, like without any sort of debate, it's just the salaries the way it works. Either Emmanuel Quickley plus Jakob Poeltl or RJ Barrett plus Jakob Poeltl to make the money work to get Anthony Davis back. And on a pure like talent basis, like, yeah, Anthony Davis in theory better than all those guys. So get him on the team, right? I get that, but also he's 33 years old. he's been in decline on offense for a few years now. He's not a good three-point shooter. He's not a willing three-point shooter. He's made like his entire career personality that he does not want to play center. Guess what, buddy? He'd be playing center on the Raptors full time. I just don't really see it as a fit for the Raptors for where they are right now. And if it's RJ plus Pirtle, I just think like RJ is a more valuable asset right now than Anthony Davis, making nearly $60 million, who, by the way, has he's under contract next year, then has a player option for $62 million the year after that. And he's going to be agitating for an extension, one would think. You can't be the team paying a max extension to Anthony Davis at 33, 34 years old with his injury history, with him already declining on offense. Like, you can't be in that business. And so, yeah, maybe you just ride it out for the next 2.5 years. He walks and you get $62 million in cap relief in 27, 28. But has he played the games in the intervening years? Has he helped, raise your ceiling as a team? I'm not so sure, especially if the other option, Quickly and Yak, is the deal going out. You leave yourself with like no guard play, which, as we've seen with the Mavericks and the Magic over the years and a lot of other teams, like, you got to have guards, man. Like, you just simply have to. The Raptors know this well. Like, they had an entire team built around, okay, we could only have one guard in our roster for years. Didn't go very well during the Vision 6-9 era. And I think we're seeing now too, like, they could still use more guards on top of Quickly and Shed and Barrett and Walter. Like, they need more guards to really take this team over the top. You'd be going backwards in the guard department to add Anthony Davis to the team. And look, Scottie Barnes, Collin Murray-Boyles, Anthony Davis, that's the basis of an excellent defense. There's no doubt about it, but I don't think it's the basis of a good enough defense it's not the basis of a good enough offense to kind of make it worth almost adding a surplus to requirements to a team that is already a top 5 defensive team, has been very good now for a calendar year on that end. I would much rather devote the resources to improving the guard situation than I would to improving the big man situation. And again, like, Anthony Davis, better player than both Quickly and Pirtle. Both those contracts, by the way, Quickly and Pirtle, probably require you to send out at least 2 first-round picks to get Anthony Davis in the door for the Mavs to take on those deals. So you're there then limiting the amount of stuff you're able to then go and trade to improve your guard situation down the line. You take away 2 players from a team that is built on depth in a league where depth is more important than ever. You're top heavy with Davis and Barnes and Ingram as your main paid guys. Would they even have the money to keep RJ Barrett around? That's very much an open conversation. Like, the same issue that they have with RJ Barrett right now, where they might not be able to pay his next contract the way things are set up, only becomes more amplified because you have the $62 million of Anthony Davis on the books a couple years from now, which is more than what Quickly and Pirtle are making together. And so it's the same issue, but it's one gigantic contract as opposed to 2 guys who individually might be easier to move. I just don't see it with Anthony Davis. It just does not make a lot of sense to me for the Raptors to go and pursue this right now. And I'd much rather keep my powder dry for this summer to go and pursue a Darius Garland if the Cavs crash out, or whichever other guard becomes available who is not Trae Young. I think that's got to be the avenue to improving the ceiling of this team. And I don't think Anthony Davis really does that for you. It's nice. It's fun. It's sexy. Everyone loves big, large names. But as far as what it would actually do to help the team, I just do not see it for the Raptors with Anthony Davis. And I'm kind of done with it there. And I went a lot longer on that one than I thought I would. So we're going to leave it there for now. I'll keep some of the mailbag questions that came in the hopper for the next time we do one of these. We're going to come back on the other side and get into our chat with Abby and Justina from the Wayne and Theresa Embry Fellowship with the Toronto Raptors. Get the lowdown on how you can apply for this very, very cool opportunity if you yourself want to work in basketball and get to know the nuts and bolts of an NBA franchise. Today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Let's be real, managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, trying to figure out where all your money is actually going each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to keep track of every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? I sure don't. I hate admin, and life financial admin is like my least favorite form of admin. That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It's actually kind of shocking to think about all the subscriptions I have just been paying for years without canceling. I've mentioned this in the past. I once subscribed to a e-card service to send a birthday card to my sister during COVID, and it was like $40 a year. And I did one card and forgot about it, and I paid for cards for 2 years like a fool. So don't be like me. Don't be a fool. Get Rocket Money and get those unwanted subscriptions canceled so you can start saving money. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. And whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with Prize Picks, it's always good to feel right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and Prize Picks lets you stay in control. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections. No drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less and play your way. Super fun, very easy. You can make a lineup in 60 seconds or less, and all you gotta do is pick more or less on a certain guy's stats, and you can stack those stats together as well. So say you want to take the more on Scottie Barnes points plus blocks plus steals, you can do that with Prize Picks. You can do it with all kinds of different players across all kinds of different sports as well. The new early payouts feature is a game changer. If a player starts hot, you can cash out before the game even ends. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Something a little different to close out today's show, as we are now 11 days away from the deadline to apply for the 2026 Wayne and Theresa Embry Fellowship with the Toronto Raptors. And I'm joined by two wonderful guests, this year's Wayne Embry Fellows. It is Abby Bruyer and Justina King here to tell us a little bit about the Wayne Embry Fellowship, which, if you're a person who's followed the Toronto Raptors over the last 10 years or so, been at a game, whatever it is, I'm sure you're at least sort of tangentially aware of what the Wayne and Theresa Embry Fellowship is, or that it at least exists, but you may not know the full details. And so here, with the deadline just less than 2 weeks away, thrilled to have Abby and Justina on the show to get into a little bit of the details of what it's all about, how you can apply. Abby, I'll start with you. You know, the fellowship is, you know, you can kind of, if you're tangentially aware, you may know it's sort of an opportunity for a couple Canadians every year to get the full rundown, essentially, of how it is to work in an NBA franchise. You get rotations at all the different areas of the franchise. That's the kind of very broad Coles notes on it. Give me a little more detail as to exactly what the Wayne and Theresa Embry Fellowship is all about, and again, sort of the pitch to someone to apply if it's, you know, working in basketball, maybe something that they're into.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the most special part of this experience is that you get to do those rotations. So kind of with more traditional internships, you're with one department, you're there for maybe 2.5 months, and you're just focusing on kind of one project. But with us, we get to rotate, we get to spend time with all the departments of the organization. We also get to contribute during these rotations. So we have different projects that we get to work on. So you really feel like you are kind of adding something. And of course, you're taking something away from each rotation that you complete. What's also special is you do have an area of focus. So this is kind of like your specialized or area of expertise that you kind of want your career in basketball, I guess, to go in. And you spend majority of your time in this area. So for me, that's salary cap strategy. For Justina, that's coaching. So you spend about 80% of your time with the mentor that you have in that area, and then 20% of your time with these rotations, shadowing, working on projects, and just kind of just soak everything in for the operation of the organization.
Very cool. And so, Justina, you're, as Abby mentioned, in the coaching side of things. You know, when you are in one of those specializations, exactly what is the day-to-day? Like, how hands-on are you? How involved do you get to be with the coaching staff? You know, what's the experience like within your own specialization?
Well, for me, with my area of focus, it's, again, like you said, coaching. And I am pretty hands-on. I mean, I'm a part of all of our coaches' meetings. I'm on court with practices. I'm there for pregame warmups on the court. So they really throw you in there. Funny, at training camp, they really put me on the court, and I was being like guarded full court by Scottie Barnes, and tough day for me, but really get to experience what it's like to really dive into this coaching thing. But yeah, it's really cool with your area of focus. You really get to be a part of it. It's not like you're just an add-on. You're really a part of the staff. So it's been really, really good.
So I guess for you, Abby, what's the, Justina's having to pick up Scottie Barnes full court. Are you with salary cap strategy? Are you like in the room talking contracts? Like, were you heavily involved in the Mo Bamba signing? Like, what's the sort of day to day on your end?
I'm very fortunate because I'm not getting guarded by Scottie Barnes, and no one wants to see that. But yeah, so it's definitely more of like kind of an office role rather than being obviously on the court.
Sure.
But I am very fortunate because I'm involved in those meetings, in those conversations. I also have projects that I've kind of made my own, so I'm kind of doing that on a weekly basis. But yeah, I'm kind of like in the room for all these kind of different things that are happening, helping in different ways I can. Can't go into too much detail with that. But yeah, I'm just being a part of it and seeing kind of how roster decisions are made, personnel decisions are made. I'm kind of in the thick of it.
Very cool. I will say our pal Karina is sitting in the back monitoring this conversation. Karina puts together the annual media basketball game. I do think there should be some sort of skills competition element where Scottie Barnes has to guard all of us humps at some point. That would be very fun. So Wayne Embry, basketball royalty for his time playing, his time as an executive, and I think the fellowship is certainly going to go down as one of the big elements of his legacy as well. Justina, what's the interaction been like, if any, with Wayne Embry, and sort of what has it been like for you to get to work in this fellowship created by, again, basketball royalty in the form of Wayne Embry?
Yeah, let me just start off by saying, like, the fact that we got this fellowship and our names are even tied to Mr. Embry's is just like such an honor because, like you said, he's just so legendary in the game of basketball, both on and off the court. In terms of our relationship with him, it's a great one. It's like a mentorship relationship, and we've been really fortunate that he's been able to come down to Toronto, and we've gotten to have dinners with him. We get to just sit and chat with him during practices and stuff. And obviously, Abby and I are very new to the NBA world. So like we are like sponges anytime we're around him and just want to soak up all the knowledge that he shares with us because he has been around the game for so long. And again, with that holistic view of like the on-court side of it and the front office side of it, it's just really cool to hear his stories and kind of pick his brain a little bit.
That's very cool. Abby, anything to add on that with your interactions with Wayne?
No, it's been very special getting to know Mr. Embry from a front office perspective, especially. He has worked for many different teams in different roles. And it's just inspiring kind of hearing his journey in the NBA, but also just the knowledge and wisdom that he has shared with his experiences. It's been really invaluable, and I'm very honored to be a part of this experience.
Right on. So you guys, again, you have your specialties, Abby, cap strategy, Justina, coaching. But again, the rotations are a big component of the Embry Fellowship. Outside of your specializations, I want to hear from each of you what your favorite parts of the rotation have been. And like, again, there's all kinds of stuff. There's G League stuff. There's coaching. There's cap strategy. There's a million different ways to sort of, again, every nook and cranny of the franchise, it seems you're getting to get a look at some point. Justina, I'll start with you. Outside of the coaching side of things, what's your favorite part of the rotation so far?
I would probably have to give it to my 905 rotation. For a little context for people who may not know, before joining the Raptors organization, like with the fellowship specifically, I was actually with the Raptors 905 as a part-time assistant coach. So going back and doing like a rotation with them, it was literally like coming back home. And I just love the people there. So huge shout out to the 905. They truly taught me so much and really elevated myself and my skill set to allow me to get this fellowship. So that was definitely probably my favorite was going back to them and just, amazing people, amazing organization.
Abby, what about you?
I've enjoyed all of them. Definitely learned something from each one. I think one that surprised me was the PR rotation. I think when you're a fan and you're watching the games, you kind of like you're reading the media, but you don't really know exactly what's going on, exactly what's happening behind the scenes. So getting to shadow our PR team was really valuable, and seeing kind of all the work that goes into it and the decision making for certain things surrounding the team. We also got to watch one of the games in the broadcast truck. So that was really cool, seeing how they really bring the game to life and make that fan experience really special. So I really enjoyed my time there.
What I got from that is dealing with us cool media folks is your favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
That's very fun. Very much appreciated. Okay, so how can people apply? Who should be applying? Obviously, it seems like this is they cast a pretty wide net for the fellowship as far as who they're looking for. Justina, can you give some details if someone's out there thinking, hey, maybe this is for me? exactly who are the types of people who should be putting their name in here, and how can they go about applying?
I think one of the great things about this fellowship is there is actually no perfect person for this role. I mean, if you look at our basketball history between like Abby and I, it's so different, and yet we're here together doing the fellowship. So one thing I would definitely encourage is like, don't think that you don't fit the mold of who the fellow is, because it really could be anybody. As long as you are truly like a genuine person, have an absolute passion for the game, like this could be the role for you.
Abby, anything to add in there as well?
Yeah, I think if you love basketball, you want to work in basketball, it doesn't matter if you're not really clear on what you want your area of focus to be or what you want your end goal to be. I think that's the nice thing about this fellowship, because you get exposed to all the different areas of the organization. You might be surprised. You might go in thinking you want to do one thing and then come out of it being like, I actually want to do something else. And you're going to have mentors throughout this experience who can help you with those decisions and will help you down the road. I only have positive things to say about it. It's been a great experience so far for me and Justina, and can't wait to see what the next 6 months are going to look like as well.
And Justina, any as far as the process of how this goes, the process of whittling down to the finalists, do you have any details on how that all works and how people can actually go and apply?
Yeah, so applications are open right now, and you can go on our Instagram page at Raptors Fellow, and the link is in our bio, or you can go on fellowship.raptors.com, and it's also there on the website. And in terms of how you can apply and what kind of the process looks like, it's a little bit different this year. This is the 10th year of the fellowship, so kind of switching things up a little bit to just give it a refresh. But this year, you'll just do your typical application, send in a cover letter, and then from there, we'll go into a top 20 finalist, and those top 20 will do a video interview, and then that list will get knocked down to 10, and then our finalists will then do in-person interviews at OVO. So that's kind of like a little quick rundown of the process, and yeah.
Everyone, go check the link in the description of the podcast. I have it in there for you to go and apply for the 2026 Wayne and Theresa Embry Fellowship. Abby, Justina, thanks so much for jumping on the show. Hopefully see you around the arena sometime soon. And everyone go apply. It's right there in the description. And that is going to do it for today's show. Thanks so much for hanging. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, all that good stuff. It's always appreciated when you support the show. However it is you choose to support the show. And we'll talk to you again Thursday talking Raptors, Hornets, with our pal Katie Heindel. That's coming up tomorrow. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.